Pigeon pose is one of the least instructed and misunderstood poses in the yoga practice. I don't know about you, but for a really long time I found this pose hard to do. In this video, we're going to look at where your body parts need to be in pigeon. Does your front shin really need to be at the top of your mat? How do you work on this pose if your hips are tight, if you have pain in your knees? What are different ways to modify it? And how do we progress it to the mermaid variation? All right. So the first thing that you need to understand is that typically in most yoga classes, you will hear that you need your shin parallel to the top of your mat. Give me a high five if you've heard that before. Yeah. And what that looks like is something like this, right? The top shin bone parallel to the short edge of your mat. For me, that is so incredibly tight. I've got to hold myself up with my other hand. If I let go, I'm going to tip right over it. That is an insane degree of stretch for my hip. And for some people, this will actually move them into pain. Yeah? We're not all built the same. Our hips are not all built the same. And if you have anything in your hips that's restricting this position, we're essentially working against our anatomy and forcing our body to do a thing for the aesthetic without understanding the purpose of the pose. What is the purpose of this pose? To stretch your ass, all right? To be more specific, we're stretching the glutes. We're stretching the piriformis muscle, which is a very small muscle inside your hip joint. That is an external rotator. It is also sometimes an internal rotator, depending on where your knee is, and an abductor. We use it a lot in our yoga practice, and it gets really tight. So this is what this pose is for. Guess what? We can access the glutes and the piriformis without forcing the shin to the top of the mat. It kind of has nothing to do with that. So the first thing I want you to give yourself the freedom to do is change this angle. Yeah, so this 90-degree angle-ish at the front of your mat, close it. Take your foot and bring it closer to your groin. That already is going to take pressure out of your hamstrings and is going to make it so you can stay a little bit more upright. Another thing to consider, I know I'm moving a lot, but I'm trying to show it to you from different angles, is a lot of people set up their pigeon like this, with the knee in front. And then they come down and they tip over. And they're like, but Nat, I can't stay upright in my pigeon. What's going on? And that becomes even more important when you're trying to go up to like mermaid. A tip over, right? Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. We need to put our body parts in specific places to avoid that happening. If that happens to you, it's got nothing to do with you're too tight. It's got nothing to do with you're too weak. It's got nothing to do with you're not good at yoga. Your knee is just in the wrong place. That's all. So instead of having the knee in front of your body, notice where your shoulder is. Put your knee outside your shoulder. So my shoulder is here. My knee is here. For me, I'm going to move my knee over there. Oh, look. And then I bring my foot towards my groin. I can move my foot as far forward as is good for me. For me, that's never going to be parallel. Yeah, and if it is for you, then awesome sauce. And there you go. You're very less likely to tip over like this because you've given yourself more width. And this knee is now preventing you from tipping over. Okay? And then when you fold into your pigeon, you should be able to see your knee outside of your shoulder. All right? So to recap, leave the shin bone where the shin bone wants to be. Does not have to be parallel to the front of your mat. Allow your front foot to plantar flex. This is dorsiflexion, when we flex the foot towards the face. Plantar flexion is when we point the foot. You'll hear yoga teachers say, flex your foot to protect your knee. That's going to be a different video for another day. Flexing your foot does not actually protect your knee. None of the muscles that flex your foot cross the knee joint. That cue is secretly about your ankle, not your knee. I'll make a separate video about it. So don't worry about flexing. Point your foot. Yeah. Get your pelvis in the middle of your situation. Get your knee outside of your shoulder. And then down you go. Yeah, and however the teacher's instructing it, maybe rest on the floor, maybe stay upright. Okay. So that's modifications for pigeon. Now, for you to know, if you missed my wrist video, we talked about this in that video as well. When we experience pain in a joint in the body that we don't have an active injury in, we need to look up the chain. yeah, to the next bigger joint up the chain. So a lot of people have pain in their knees in pigeon. But those same people don't have a meniscus tear or an ACL tear or an actual internal knee injury. Their knees just hurt in this position. Why is that? Because the body is all connected. So if we have movement restriction at the hip joint, it's going to pull on the tissues that are crossing the knee joint. And when you go into deep knee flexion and then you add body weight on top of it, that's going to pull on your kneecap if there's a lot of tension in the hip. Okay, so first things first, take more time to warm up and open your hips. I love to work with myofascial release. That's using massage balls to open up areas of the body that are tense. I have a course on that. I'll talk about that in a separate video. But working out your hips is helpful. Taking time to warm up your hips before you come into pigeon is helpful. Or simply turning the pose onto your back. Okay. Nobody likes this because our ego is like, but then I'm not doing what everybody else is doing in the class. I know. But sometimes we just get to not worry about what other people are doing. Yeah, so taking figure 4 stretch, bringing your knees towards your chest and cross your ankle over the opposite knee. And then this knee, you'll want to send it away from your face. So you're really working that external rotation and that stretch in the hip. And then you can either grab behind your thigh or in front of your shin. Secretly, this pose works the same muscles as pigeon. Figure 4 on your back stretches your glutes, your piriformis, and the tiny little muscles inside your hip joint. So there is nothing that says you have to do pigeon, okay? If it hurts your knees, there's probably something going on with tension in your hips that you can work out with hip opening and with myofascial release. And over time, it'll stop pulling on your kneecap, all right? And barring that, just get on your back and do it that way. And if your ego is like, but that's not a real pose. Yes, it is. And sometimes we get to just give the ego a little stroke and be like, homie, we'll get there when we get there. And for now, we're going to work here. All right. The next thing I want to talk into briefly is mermaid pose. I get asked about this one a lot. This is mermaid pose. When you're in your pigeon, you come up. Ooh, I need a warm up. You bend your back knee. You grab a hold of this foot and it looks like this. Yeah. So I'm only going to talk about the leg situation here. What tends to happen when we come up is this. Oh my God, lost it. Oh, lost it. Yeah. Raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about. I see this all the time in my yoga classes. It happens to me all the time. That's about 2 things. A, it's about making sure that your knee is outside your shoulder, like we already talked about. If your knee is right here, you're going down right away. Okay. So knee outside the shoulder, and it's also about being active, okay? We forget that these yoga poses are active. By that I mean, you don't just plop up and expect your body to stay in this position. You have to make it stay in this position. How do we make it stay? You take this front shin and you push it down into the ground. And as you push, you'll feel your entire crotchal region lift up from the floor, and then go ahead and stop pushing. Let your pelvis come back down, and then again, push, feel that lift, yeah? Ooh, that's hard. Release, and then push one more time. Hold the lift. You're still pushing through that front shin. Only if and when you can maintain the lift, then you start to go for the back foot. I'm not gonna cue the whole thing because this is not what this video is about, but activity in your legs. If your legs go, you tip over, okay? And lastly, if your flexibility is a little bit lacking for this shape and you find yourself really tense here and not able to get low enough that you can bend this knee, take a block and slide it underneath your hip and sit on it, yeah? If a block is too high, take a blanket, fold it up, make it less thick than a block and slide that under your hip. Just giving yourself something to stabilize yourself with to prevent you from tipping over is awesome. And again, you're going to need to ask your ego to get out of the way on this one. All right, there's a lot more I'd love to say, and I try to keep these videos bite-sized so you have time to watch them. If you enjoy going deep into poses like this, if you enjoy looking at using props, modifications, different approaches, you're going to love my no bullshit yoga pose library. I do this in depth with over 90 poses. You can comment no BS below and I'll shoot you the link, or you can look in the description for the link. I will see you in the next video. Happy yogaing.